September 2020 video horoscopes for the 12 signs. I'm Lada from astrolada.com. Welcome to the craziest year and one of the tougher months. September, October, November, guys, months we're not gonna forget. And months of big spiritual growth. That's what we say to make you feel good. But indeed, you will see months where Saturn and Mars are square all the time. Mars is going retrograde this month, which means that some great feat of willpower will be required from us, and some great use of willpower, but we'll eventually will be able to achieve something tremendous by November, December, that we'll be so proud of. So we'll speak about each of the 12 signs, how Mars retrograde affects us. But just to let you know, me and Brian are making a fantastic webinar this September, in the middle of September. It's called speed reading the birth chart. So basically what it means to have the sun, moon, ascendant in different signs, how to tie them together, how to interpret the chart, what it means for you. And it's from the point of evolutionary astrology. I'm very excited about this webinar. Last webinar Brian did had 300 or 400 people, so, and it's 30% discounted. Come and join us to see how to quickly read the birth chart and what it means. It's for beginners, even for advanced or beginners. You don't need to know much astrology to understand it. Thank you so much. Let's start with the signs. Virgo, rising sun or moon. Mars is becoming retrograde from the 9th of September till the middle of November. So you'll feel the whole September, even the whole November, October, in your 8th house, Virgos. Okay, so you probably know that it's not the easiest when Mars goes retrograde, and Mars has not been retrograde in your 8th house since 1989 or something like that, or 88. So it's a once in a lifetime experience for many of us. So it's a rare opportunity to really, Mars is a soldier that fights and that wants to fix and improve things. Like a, knight in shining armor that gets very upset about things that are not right, things that are not fair, things that are not, and wants to fight and fix them. So Mars is a fixer. So it's a super rare opportunity to fix things for the next 2-3 months in regards to this 8th house. And you're not going to have it again till 2064 or something, this opportunity. But fixing something includes destroying something or going through stress first and re-examining how you've been doing things wrong there. So this retrograde period is going to feel stressful because you're doing the hard work. And 8th house, let's start on the superficial level. When it starts going retrograde Mars in your 8th house, it can create some financial crisis or some financial problem, because 8th house is financial, with taxes, with insurances, with inheritances, with stimulus checks or whatever. You might feel frustrated, agitated, stressed because of certain situation there. So what is the best strategy? Instead of getting angry and shooting everyone, you need to keep composure and you need to act strategically. Mars retrograde acts in indirect way rather than in bullish, aggressive ways. That's the best way to do it. More strategically plan it, and know that there might be certain delays to you from money that comes through from your partner, some stresses with your partner's finances and resources, or your client's finances and resources, some alimonies, money or resources that come to you from others. There might be some fight that draws out in regards to what's yours, what's mine. Or I remember, I always keep giving this story, but I had Mars retrograde in the 8th house years ago, and my ex-husband and his phone was stolen, and they made calls for 20,000 pounds, some kind of a scam or whatever. So his company said, you have to pay that. And he was so stressed, and because 8th house is my partner's resources, so my partner was just going bonkers, and because of that, and was fighting with them, trying to talk with them on the phone every day and to resolve the issue. And eventually he didn't have to pay it, thankfully. So he worked persistently with perseverance through those stresses. So that was my Mars and through the 8th house. And also certain unexpected expenses came up, and my partner said, we have to find money. He was stressed about money and type of thing. But at the end, everything was resolved well. So I don't want you to be scared from that. I gave you just my story, but there can be a lot of other stuff. It doesn't always have to play out like that. Some of you might mean that you're revising your budget and you're asked to rebudget and refinance something, your pension or your K401 or some investments, eight houses invest mutual resources and finance, so some investments that you've put. And if you're working on the stock market or if you have investments in stocks, I'll be very careful in that case when Mars starts going retrograde there, because they can turn a sudden turn, they can have a sudden change of your investments and your, if you've put like, a lot of people put their savings in mutual funds and stuff like that. So that's an area you have to be a bit more careful about, because sudden changes can happen. I don't know, speaking with your financial advisor or whatever to prepare for this. It is what it is. I don't know if it can be avoided, but you have to be more cautious when it comes to, like for the next 2 months, September, October, and part of November. Don't make new sudden investments. Don't suddenly move your money to a brand new type of, mutual fund or whatever it's called, like a stock market investment, because it can really surprise you. It can really get out of control. But you can definitely, it's a good time to sit and reorganize your finances with your partner, for example, to make plans and to find more workable ways and solutions to solve certain financial matters as well. And if you do the job right, it can indicate that by the end of this period, you'd have, so basically by December or something like that, you might be able to create way more resources, and you might have fixed a financial situation problem very well, or you might have even improved your chances to receive help and support from others. So for example, if you have your own business and you rely on money from clients or business partners of some sort, or resources from them, this is the eighth house. So yes, there might be some stresses when Mars is retrograde. You have to work creatively around them, strategically as well, slowly, no rushing. There might be some delay about resources coming to you from others, like payment from clients or from, business partners as well. You just have to be more cautious with such matters. But the final result is that you might kind of be, first of all, freed by some financial responsibility towards others, or you might even cut off some people that were bringing shared resources to you somehow. The universe might cut them off from your life. So after that, you can be a bit more independent. Mars ultimately wants to teach independence. And on another level, the eighth house has a lot more spiritual, deep, and meaning, and these are your traumas. And actually, ancient astrology says that when Mars transits, and especially retrogrades in the eighth house, there's no better time to suddenly break through an old trauma, because Mars eighth house is traumas, but also sudden changes in life. So what creates traumas? A sudden change. Someone dies, you get divorced, it's a trauma. You get left, you get cheated on, sudden traumas. Your life turns around 180 degrees suddenly. So the trauma is caused by that. But also when Mars enters, it can create and starts going retrograde, especially. It's like all traumas is returned to your consciousness, and very quickly it's transformed, because Mars is very fast in energy. And I have seen this in clients. Mars retrograde, suddenly the trauma can come back and hit you and then disappear within days. So something, and sometimes I've seen someone that just they've gone all their lives to psychologists, and suddenly they go to one, past life regression or whatever, when Mars is retrograde in the eighth house, and it resolves all their traumas, and it's just in one go. Oh, some kind of fears or traumas, or something clicks suddenly, So there is this possibility of a miraculous healing, almost like intervention, that Mars's eighth house is surgeries. Mars's surgery is like a tumor can be removed from you. In the worst case scenario, sometimes it can indicate actual surgeries in one's life as well, when Mars retrogrades in the eighth house. If this is the case, I wish you, that it all goes well. It is what it is. These things happen. and sometimes even accidents. So you have to be more careful for sudden development, sudden crisis. Mars in the retrograde in the 8th house can bring sudden crisis that you have to deal with for the next couple of months. So again, but also it gives you a great ability to cope with crisis, to master your it's a training in how to cope with crisis, basically, when Mars retrogrades in the 8th house. It's like a soldier training how to cope with it. So at the end, you might find yourself feeling much more stable within yourself, with much more emotional strength, because you are able to mobilize your energy so well and cope so fast with the issues that were thrown to you, the sudden reversals that happen, that you're able to, cope with them and fix them in some way. And you'd find a lot more emotional stability in you and a lot more strength, so to speak. 8th house ultimately psychologically is self-empowerment and self-transformation. And initially you might feel like this is being taken away from you, like the crisis, but the final result is that you develop a lot more internal emotional strength, so to speak. And again, miraculous healing can happen sometimes, miraculous breakthrough, psychological, emotional, and physical, with Mars retrograde there. And also these are interventions, Mars retrograde in the 8th house. You can create an intervention. Someone else can create an intervention in your life as well. But sudden changes happen. Or if you've been stuck for a long time on the path of trauma, Mars retrograde period is when you really work deep and you transform it, and you can move free after that. Power struggles is 8th house as well. Mine, yours, how much I give, how much you give, how much I put love here, how much you give love back. It's the interplay of powers and energies. So that can escalate as well. Some secrets can come to the surface. Some things forgotten from the past or unknown from the past, when Mars retrogrades in your 8th house, can be revealed. They can be quite surprising. They can be stressful, but they can be also liberating. When you know the truth, it's liberating. And 8th house is the house of, sorry, I'm starting to forget. I think we said pretty much everything. Sex, of course, intimacy, deep intimacy. So some of you might be going deeper to research. 8th house is past lifetimes as well, and opening of chakras. And Mars retrograde there, they can have like a sudden opening of chakras, like a sudden, the 8th house rules all the apertures in the body, and Mars speeds up whenever, especially it's going to be there for such a long time, and it can start some process of opening up your chakras that lasts for a couple of months. And and when Mars turns direct, you can start seeing the results of that. It's a great time for deep research. Mars digging deep, 8th house investigating of some sort, of digging deep into astrology. That's why I think it's good if you come and check our webinar with Brian in September on the speed reading the birth chart. And his webinar is always amazing. They last, it's going to be 5-hour webinar, and we get 400 or 500 people that sign up for those webinars. He's such an exclusive and profound teacher. How to read the speed chart, the birth chart, it's fast, and so some research, going into the occult, going into deep research and about life after death, and overcoming your fears about death, overcoming your fears about, and ultimately taking your power back. For someone, for example, that's another way it can play out. Someone who has taken your power, someone who controls you, someone who you're obsessing over, or someone who you don't dare speak up to. This is the 8th house, someone controlling you because of some irrational fear. So whatever, they might be totally controlling person, or because you're attracted to them sexually and you find yourself that they've taken your power. And you can find yourself that now you're starting to brew when Mars goes retrograde. Those, it starts to say, I cannot tolerate that anymore. So at some period of this retrograde, at some time of this retrograde period, you might decide to suddenly and say, okay, I'm taking my power back. Again, it can involve some deep psychological work, but it's some internal process that might not be even visible to others outside. and then suddenly you suddenly cut connections with someone, and everyone is like, what the hell happened? And they're like, I'm taking my power back. It's all about how you, and again, I advise you, don't do it in a brutal way, do it in a more strategic way, do it in a more, not cunning way, I would say in a more humane way, but more strategic as well. um okay, what else? Sexuality, we talk, some of you might start revising some sexual traumas from the past, uh, maybe trying to heal them and break through them, or some sexual blockages that you have to go through. And when Mars is retrograde, there might be certain issue there of trust and sexuality that you're working through. Of eighth house is the ability to trust others as well. So Mars is trying to make you work through that as well in some way. So, or you can just it can be a time where you can break through some sexual addiction, because Mars gives you the ability to have 3 times more willpower, or to some sexual attachment to someone. You know, you might be sexually addicted to porn, or you might be sexually addicted to the same person and they have a grip on you, and that you're constantly, you know, even though you haven't seen them for a long time, you're constantly obsessed with them. This is the darker side of the eighth house, and Mars there can help you cut those connections and work through those psychological bonds as well. Oh, it's intense and deep house, huh? What do you think, guys? But you're receiving some support. Venus is going to be in your 12th house, and it is supporting by trine. So indeed, some past life regression can help break through those issues, or a very good psychic or astrologer or counselor who can connect to the invisible realms. This is the 12th house. Invisible support or connection from your ancestors, from the invisible worlds, or counseling, advising with someone who knows the subconscious mind and can help you uh, release some of the pressure of this Mars in the eighth house. Or just studying spiritual books as well, or prayer. 12th house is prayer, and Venus there can allow you to really enjoy prayer or meditation or retreat. Also, it might be nice for some of you to retreat for a few days. Maybe go to a spa, maybe go for a holiday a bit away in a secluded place that will release and help you work through those issues of the eighth house of Mars there that we talked about. Some of you can indicate secret private pleasures, like enjoying to read a book in the private time. For others, it might be, it might escalate a little bit the proclivity to do indulgent vices, like maybe drink or something like that. But it's kind of, it feels relaxing and it disconnects you from reality. And it can mean a private affair or some private attraction that you have towards someone. But the high manifestations of Venus in the 12th house are honestly taking a break for a little bit. Uh, uh, some nice trip away if you can do it, or to retreat for a little bit, some spiritual, finding a lot of joy and pleasure in spending time alone or isolating or in nature somehow as well. A lot. So thank you so much. Virgos, your planet, Virgo, is in the second house, Mercury. So there'll be a focus as well, and more faster developments uh, in connection to, I don't know, second house. Maybe more communications about money, about resources and finances, reading more about such matters, getting good information in regards to financial stability, thinking more, sometimes worrying more about finances and resources. Uh, anyway, that's about it. The most important planets is basically Mars retrograding in your fifth house. And also you might feel like your love life is stagnant because Saturn is becoming totally stationary in your fifth house. It's just stuck there on the same degree, 25 degrees. So you might feel like, oh, my love life is stuck, or some creative project is stuck, or but it's about to change direction. At the end of the month, there will be a change of wind in your love life. But till then, they can feel like a bit of a frustration there, some delay with creative projects, with matters regarding children, your love life. Uh, and or extra effort, because a stationary Saturn just requires a lot of effort to pass through there through some blockages, 3 times more effort for some creative project, for example, 3 times more effort for something to do with your child, 3 times more effort in some romantic relationship. So, but again, from October onwards, when Saturn starts moving direct, Jupiter already starts moving direct in your 5th house. So you start seeing improvement in your love life and those other 5th house, you know, if you have stresses, children, creative projects, you start seeing development there. And you start seeing better and better results from October. So thank you so much, Virgo. I will see you next month.